All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of the CWL podcast. I'm joined with Maxi. MaDaC, go ahead, say hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. This is going to be a somewhat weekly podcast where we talk about CWL, Call of Duty, specifically talking about Call of Duty esports. And so we have a couple of topics we're going to talk about tonight. Obviously, talking about the CWL, what the matches that have occurred these past, 4 weeks, 5 weeks?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Fourth week just ended today.
Right. We're going to kind of talk about some big winners from the group, some big losers, and we're going to see where tonight goes. So we're going to start off by introducing ourselves. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
All right,
so,
go ahead.
First of all, obviously, gamer tag known on the internet as MaDaC. My real name is Maxi, however. Obviously, this is my channel. I stream on Twitch somewhat regularly. It was pretty regular, however, not been streaming too much as of recent. But been a huge Call of Duty fan for many years. It's actually how me and Stony became to meet each other. And I've been playing since Call of Duty 4 was my first game, and ever since then, basically just got really fell really in love with esports in general, and from there kind of explored other esports. Since then, I've gotten into Counter-Strike, League of Legends. Obviously, still follow a lot of Call of Duty. I think those are the main esports that I really follow. And here today, I'm still obviously really passionate about Call of Duty, and hopefully now going to be adding to the Call of Duty community. But yeah, that's pretty much a very basic breakdown of who I am.
All right. As kind of mentioned, I'm Sam. Go by Stony or Stony35 on pretty much everything. As Maxie said, I'm pretty similar. Started playing Call of Duty. So my friend convinced me to buy a PlayStation 3 right as World at War was getting released. So I played a little COD 4. I think I skipped World at War and then went to Modern Warfare 2.
Skipped World at War?
Yeah, never really played it. Wasn't a big fan. Anyway, so I think ever since then, I just like COD 4. I remember just shipment. I'm not especially good, but I enjoy it. I have fun. I just, like similar to Max, I really just fell in love with the game. I started following the esports side of it. I distinctly remember end of Modern Warfare 3, it was a nade shot video. I must have just stumbled across it on YouTube. And I don't remember the map, but basically he was playing GBs and he was like third personing and the people were calling out and different things. And I don't know, just the teamwork side of it really enticed me and was very interesting to me. And I've never really been a sports player or sports follower, but that it really grabbed me and hooked me in. And then Black Ops 2 obviously happened, and then the surge of players and following, and just kind of rode the wave since then. I used to do some content creation. Kind of thinking back on it now, I wasn't very good at it. I did it for fun, but like I said, thinking back on it now, it was a bit bad. Some of the videos I made were really bad.
What kind of content did you make, Stony?
It was mostly kind of commentary similar to this. I also used to do a podcast, which I absolutely love doing. It just kind of I don't know how to say, just kind of went away eventually. I don't know. People got bored of it, so we got bored of it. And but yeah, so I kind of got an itch recently to get back into content creation, and I just I just love Call of Duty, so wanted to get back into like Call of Duty and making content for it. And just the podcast is something that's always interests me, and I really would like to see where I can pursue it and see where I can take it. But that's pretty much it in terms of me. Just an everyday person, really. plans for the podcast. So, I mean, my plans. Here's my plans. Right, 1,000,000 views every single episode. 100,000 subs on your Twitch channel. 1,000,000 subs on YouTube. That's kind of my the big unachievable goals, but the more achievable ones.
Those are the shoot for the star ones.
Yeah,
right?
that was the word I was looking for. Shoot for the star. The more achievable ones, I would be extremely happy with a 50 to 75 viewer base that comes every week and just watches us talk shit about Call of Duty. I would really like to be able to in the future have like a section where we take like calls from the people where we're in a group a chat on Discord and people can come in and hi, I've been watching for a long time and blah blah blah, whatever, ask our opinions on things and then play GBs with viewers and I don't know, things like that. I just involve viewers in what we do because ultimately content creators are nothing without viewers. So
of course, yeah, and like so to touch on that and obviously kind of show my side of the story. I think one of the biggest things for me when obviously you were kind of the creator of the idea of this whole thing, and you obviously asked me if I wanted to come on, and pretty much straight away I definitely wanted to come on and kind of make this a thing with you. And I think one of the biggest things about this whole idea was, I've obviously, like I just said before, I've been streaming on Twitch, which obviously really been trying to grow my channel, especially in the past few months when I hit affiliate and things like that. But as I just mentioned as well, Call of Duty and like the community is something that I've always been one involved with since when I started getting into competitive, but also two just passionate about in general, right? So I think both of us have had our shots different kind of things within the community before, but when this was first mentioned to me, immediately this was something that stuck out, just because I think that there is a real lack of content in this kind of space within the community when it comes to podcasts and things like that. Pretty much everybody's making YouTube videos these days, everybody's a streamer, and when it comes to Call of Duty and their esport in general, I think we're really lacking some kind of content that is not just literally watching the game or the actual CWL live stream itself. So I think it was something that, like I said, is lacking within this community. I think it's something that we could really add a lot of value to. And I personally myself, I listen to podcasts pretty often, and it's something that I looked for myself once upon a time. Like I remember a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, I've gone back and looked a couple of times now to see if there was anybody kind of creating this kind of content, because it was something that I wanted to listen to. So now being able to be in a position where obviously we can be the creators of that, and like you said, wanting to achieve those goals would really obviously put us in a good position, but I think it would put the community itself in a great position and give them more to look forward to throughout the week.
Yeah. So kind of discussed a schedule. Unfortunately, Maxi and I both have kind of unpredictable, I would say, or not kind of set in stone schedules each week. So I think we're going to plan to do it, 8:30 every Thursday night, possibly pre-recorded, possibly live, depending on the week. I would say as we get more into it, as we get more fan involvement, I definitely would like to do live, because hard to do that when you're not live. But consistency is obviously key. Outside of the show itself, we do have a show Twitter, which is on screen, the CWL_podcast. And I believe we're going to be posting these on Maxi's YouTube, which is remind me.
No, my YouTube is MaDaC.
Okay. So yeah, if you can't catch a show live, you can always watch the VODs on Twitch. You can always watch VODs on YouTube, whichever kind of works best for the viewer. I would just want to say for anybody watching, the reason I'm kind of looking off to my right periodically is I do have the stream up on a separate screen over here, so not like I'm daydreaming or.
It's actually kind of funny, and I've already noticed this. It looks like we are kind of looking at each other, because when I'm looking over this way, that's where I have you in like full screen as well. So
okay, so it kind of looks like we're in a cute little romance. I like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
2 different rooms in 2 different countries, but
the romance is still
looking
there.
towards each other.
Yeah. All right, are you ready to jump into this? Get stuck into the meat of this.
Of course. So, obviously, the first thing we're going to talk about is Group A, which is already had their first 2 weeks. It's already all been said and done at this point, and interesting. That's all I have to say.
I would say interesting to say the least. Absolutely. I feel like the middle third, I would have expected to be the top third. The top third would be in the middle, and then the bottom 2/3 I would have expected to be in a different order, really.
Yeah.
Like, coming into it, if you told me that Genji and Midnight were going to be on top of Optic, Red Reserve, Luminosity, Reciprocity, like, I'd have told you were high. Like, I'd have straight up said, no, you're wrong. But
yep,
I've been so impressed with them. I actually went and looked at some stats for Genji. 9-0 in S&D. Like,
wow.
There's 2 game modes that are played twice in a series, obviously. This is one of them, and you're 9-0 in it. Like, if it goes to a game 5, you're winning the series. The lowest S&D KD of, I believe it was Spacely. So he had a 1.15 in S&D. That was the lowest KD of the team. So, everyone's getting at least 1 kill a round. Like, you're going to win. It's pretty easy, really. They are 10 and 11 in respawn, which, like, that doesn't matter. They're 500, so they win the hard point, lose the control, win S&D, lose hard point, win S&D. Like, it's a winning formula, really.
Yeah, no, and I mean it's just that same kind of saying that people have said for years at this point, right? S&D is what wins championships, and they're literally proving that as they go on through the pro league.
Yeah.
And that's just one of them. Like, Midnight also been crazy, 5-2. Also putting themselves above Optic, Red. Like, that whole group was so stacked,
right? And
yeah, it I'm glad we weren't doing predictions at that point. That's all I can say.
I tell you, I was doing some predictions, and I haven't gone back to look, but my predictions were bad. Let's put it that way.
Don't just don't.
just forget Group A, week 1 and 2. But I would say, like, a pretty glaring problem would be that Optic didn't have Dashi, and they were 4-3. They ended up 4-3, sorry. But I would expect it easily like a 6-1. A 5-2 from Optic with Dashi. He is their explosive player, and Zuma, he tried as he could, but he is no Dashi at the end of the day. And Karma tried to step into that role, but he's just so good.
It was, and so this is one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if you've seen this over the past couple of days. A lot of people have been tweeting out who they thought were like the top 3 players within the CWL so far, and I've seen so many people putting Dashi up there, which was really confusing because he literally didn't play in the whole
play a map, but
no. But I mean, that just goes to show that how good he actually is, right? Like, people still would put him up there even after not seeing him play for, what's it been, like a couple of months now?
Yeah, since Vegas.
Vegas, yeah.
Yeah.
So the fact that people are still putting him up there, and the fact that Optic, obviously, like you just said, they finished 4-3 with Zuma as a stand-in, who obviously is an outstanding player as well, but like you said, it's not what they're used to. It's not what they've been practicing with, and obviously they didn't know about Dashi not being able to get there up until pretty late. So They didn't have much time to prepare either, so it was definitely a huge blow for them. And like you said, even with all of that talent, like we're literally talking about some of the best players in the game there, right? Scump, Krim, Karma. Like just between those three names right there, you've got like how many world championships and how many minor championships. Like there's just crazy. And then when you add the young guy, oh my god, his name
TJ.
TJ, that's what I was thinking of. TJ Halley, and then Zuma, who's obviously also a very accomplished player. You know, when they don't have that time to be able to practice and get things down as a team together, it shows, obviously.
Right.
I'm just looking at it right here. Overall, like win percentage between all of the teams, Optic was actually 8th so far. They obviously 16 and 13. That's including that's the map count. Sorry. So yeah, really bang in the middle, pretty much, of all the teams. So
yeah. Then
huge loss for them.
Yeah. So, you know, kind of, you would expect them to kind of turn that around in the next weeks, but then you look at the other side of the division. You look at EG. Let me tell you some of their stats. 0-8 in S&D. 7-1 in respawn. So that already shows you, yeah, they're a little less than 500 in respawn, but they're losing game 2. They're always going to lose game 5. So you're never going to win a series like that.
Yep.
The lowest KD in respawn, which was a 0.81, which, you know, isn't really that bad, but with a record of 1-6, coming with the only win coming from the team that is immediately above them. Like, what can you expect? And it's not like these players are like unproven players. It's not like they're amateurs that are just coming up.
Well, and like, let's just walk through that roster as well for, again, anybody who might be new to this scene. We've got Gunja, who has been around for as long as I can remember and is a well-established player throughout the community and has always found success in a lot of the teams that he's been on. We've got Royalty, who's obviously been like an up-and-comer and has just been going crazy every single team that he's been on as well. Fellow, who has obviously also kind of been coming up for a few years now, but again, he's a well-established name within the known quite well for his S&D specifically. We've got Exotic, who I don't really know much about Exotic. I'm pretty sure he's a newcomer this year. I think I saw him a little bit last year as well. And then we got Facento and well, GodRX as the substitute, but Facento as well, one of those players that he's been playing with Fellow for a few years, and those guys already have that established chemistry, and again, they were a team that was well known for their S&D. What happened? Right.
I know, even going back to Black Ops 2, talking about Gunja, I remember him being an S&D god. I believe he was on TK at the time, and
he was on TK for a long time.
Yeah, they would just win S&Ds off the back of his performances, and then they come in now, the biggest league that's ever happened in Call of Duty, the biggest, you know, I wouldn't say the biggest year, because there's not quite as many tournaments as there has been in previous years, even though there's more money, so it kind of evens out. But you know, it's a really big year. I think it's going to be a really big pivot year. You know, it could either go one of two ways. Anyway, you know, this team is not showing up, and it's really disappointing. Even, you know, you look at reciprocity as well, and I will say I personally have a really big soft spot for this team, because European, I know you are as well, but you know, Tommy, you know, I've watched his stream. I believe I started watching it in Ghosts. Remember exactly. Being a sub of his for a long time, being a mod of his for a long time, and just seeing his team at 5-2, especially given all the skill that they have. You know, even looking at their roster, Zed, Dens was absolutely destroying the Australian scene the last few years. Johnny, Tommy, and Wuskins, like, all the skill that they have right there is a lot better than their record suggests.
Yeah, and like the big thing that I was expecting with these guys as well is obviously Tommy. I think has had his kind of ups and downs these past couple of years. He's been on.
Yeah.
He was obviously on Epsilon for a long time with a well established European roster there, and then ever since that, like I said, he's kind of been up and down. And so now that he's kind of found this team, they've moved out to Vegas, and you know, he's got a couple of younger guys there as well. They've also got Shane as their coach, who's obviously again been in the scene for a long time, well established guy within the community as well. And I just feel like these guys had so much to kind of prove going out there, like making that move out to Vegas, and then and obviously making it to the Pro League. I think they had a lot to prove, and I just don't think that, like you said, that record doesn't really show what these guys can do, and I think they've still got a lot to prove when the rest of the.
Yeah. So just a little tweet that I've just seen from JP Krez. I believe he's either the owner of COD Stats or like he does a lot of the statistic for them. He says outslaying teams during the Pro League. Hardpoint record is 87-10 with an 89.7 win rate, so 90% basically. And Control is 50-6, again almost 90% win rate. So if you get the kills, you're gonna win pretty much.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's easy to say, really, but it's hard to do.
Well, not for these guys. Shouldn't be for these guys.
Shouldn't be for these guys, yeah. But for us who suck comparatively, it can be pretty hard.
Well, yeah. Well, and I mean, just looking through, and well, this is overall here, but looking through these KDs overall for what we've seen so far in the Pro League. Got Marks from Gen G, no surprise there. Literally a 1.23 KD over a total of 30 maps. 1.23, it's insane. And so, like, there's no surprise that these guys are winning those crucial maps against these big teams when they've got a player who's going off like that consistently. Right. But then, interestingly, having said that, right there alongside him, there's also Hugh, also obviously a part of Team Envy, which I know we're not on Group B yet, but he's also played 30 maps, and we have not been doing too hard so far. So
yeah. I think it's really interesting that let's get into this when we get into Group B. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
It's my fault.
But I mean, looking also at the KDs, you see Mayhem from UIU right there. His team is 3 and 4. You know, you can get the kills, but you know, unless your team's getting the rotations properly, then you're really not gonna. You know, you're never going to be able to hold the hard points properly, and in S&D, you're not going to be able to plant and clutch up and things like that. So,
yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was about to say, right? So it's getting kills is definitely a big part of things, but when the rest of your team is falling around you and they ain't doing much else, that's where the problem is. And I mean, I think a big thing to note as well about those two players that we've just mentioned, Mox is also a main AR, right?
Right.
While as you said, Mayhem was the other guy. So he's an AR slayer. So he should be technically outslaying.
Right.
But I just find it so interesting that this is something that it has been happening quite often this year, is we are seeing these big KDs from all of these AR players. Like, this is not something that we usually see, right? We usually see people like Scumpy and Crimsix, and those guys are usually the ones that are top of the leaderboard when it comes to these KDs. But I think a lot of things, a lot of the time, what's happening this year is obviously those ARs are still getting in the power positions, but they're in positions to actually trade with the SMGs who are kind of throwing themselves forward a little bit more, right?
Right. I mean, it's a lot easier as an AR to kind of just sit on a head glitch and just left trigger and then shoot everyone that comes into your sight.
But traditionally, it was more of a set in the back of the map, just getting the spawns. Meanwhile, I find that the maps on this game are really encouraging these players to be a lot more involved. And I'm sure obviously 5v5 has a big part to do with that as well, right?
Yeah.
Because now you do have people trying to flank while you also have people pushing the front at the same time,
Right.
trying to obviously push for that pinch. So it's definitely adding a big dynamic to the game, and personally I like it.
Yeah, I would definitely go off what you're saying there and say that also kind of the flow of the game isn't really left trigger as an AR and methodically push up. It is much more push, 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 push. So coupling the 5v5 with that kind of style of the game, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. But so I'm just looking through the KDs, and I got to Scump. You mentioned him. He had a 0.97 KD overall across 29 maps. So
Wow.
I mean, a little underperforming, but as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, or earlier on in the show, I should say, if the rest of the team isn't performing, he's not going to do as well. And without Dashi, they haven't done that well, or they've done okay, I would say. But it's definitely a little underwhelming from him, especially as a player that we've seen for many, many, many years at this point. Really step up and perform to the top of the top, which he really has shown us he can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously Scump's had a huge influx in fans this year from his live stream that's been doing so well. And one of the things that he's been saying about like what's helped him with that success is him having a lot of fun playing public matches again and things like that. And he's always kind of put his success down to his enjoyment of playing public matches, because it allows him to grind the game so much more. And he's literally said how this is the game that he's loved more than any other for a long time, because he's actually being able to play pubs again. But yeah, right. Then we see him at these events, and I don't know if it's there. No.
I mean, it is obviously hard to compare to idiots who don't turn on the monitor and thrown in the back of your spawn to the best of the best players that you have in the world, which are in the. But I get what you're saying. Like, I kind of see two sides to it, that he needs to step it up a little bit, but if Dashi was there, then he would be getting the kills, and so I would also say that KD definitely doesn't show the full picture. Like, you could,
of course,
and I definitely distinctly remember seeing events and matches where players have got close to almost like a 2.0 KD and they're losing by 100 because they're running around getting kills, but they're not getting the right kills, or they're not getting the teammates are not getting on the hard point, or they're not catching the flag, or whatever.
Who was it literally last night? Somebody got I didn't manage to catch the games last night or tonight because of work, but last night somebody got a gunship, and didn't they lose the map?
Was a member of, was it Silly from Envy?
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. He got a gunship, and they lost the map and the match. So
yeah,
it's only.
If ever there was a prime example of why KD doesn't always matter, that is it.
Exactly.
Right there.
Yeah.
Because I remember, again, I was at work, so I didn't get to catch the full thing, but I remember seeing, getting notifications on Twitter about how, it was crazy, somebody's dropped a gunship, blah, 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 and then later on at night, I looked a little further into it, and I'm like, wait, but they lost the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, that kind of proves our point for us. KD is not.
Yeah.
But...
it helps.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment about MV, but we're going to save that. Unless you're ready to get into Group B. Are you got anything else to add on Group A?
No, I mean, just overall, Genji, Midnight Esports. Did you expect them to be there?
No. Like I said, if you told me they were going to be at the top.
Where did you expect them to be?
Middle third.
Mm-hmm. So, and who would you have put, like, just looking at the group right now, who would you have put at the bottom?
At the bottom, I would have put probably UIU and maybe EG. Maybe EG, okay. maybe Midnight. Actually, thinking about it, maybe Midnight. You know,
yeah,
it's kind of hard. I feel like some of the players are kind of hard to predict what they're going to do and when they're going to do it.
Well, and I think that's one of EG's problems right now, right? They do have good players, like when you put them on paper and see their past records and their achievements, they're good players, but they just don't seem to be meshing very well, and they don't seem to have that consistency. So but yeah, I pretty much agree. I think between like Evil Geniuses, UIU, and yeah, Midnight for sure. Like those are the people I would kind of be seeing at the bottom of it, and then I was expecting Red Reserve, Gen G to kind of be in that middle, and then of course Optic and LG, and well, I guess Reciprocity would have been in kind of middle as well, certainly higher than where they are right now. But that was the kind of order that I was expecting, and it's pretty much flipped.
Yep. I will say one last thing on Group A before we move on to Group B. You mentioned them not playing very well, Evil Geniuses. I really agree with you, but that's where their coach, Revan, has to step up. I mean, I remember him in Black Ops 2. I remember him playing Ghosts. He was always like this strategic mind. He always made good plays. He didn't always get the kills. Like his gun skill wasn't as good as other players, but he always was getting the right kills, if you know what I'm saying. Like always on rotations, always making smart choices in S&D, and he stepped into this coaching role after retiring from playing, and I think he needs to step up a little bit and really, I don't know, force them to play some tournaments together, force them to, I don't know, like just maybe go on some team bonding exercises, like put the controllers down and go and walk in the woods or something, you know, like away from the game. They should come together and be more cohesive.
Yeah, so I think, you know, like you said, he's somebody who's been around for a long time. He's well established within the community. He's somebody that, well, he was obviously a part of the CWL production as well for a while there, right? Yeah. He was, and a lot of people literally like this season have been complaining about how they find that the people on the analyst desk at the CWL right now are not very analytical, and he is one of the names that is mentioned pretty often as to who they kind of miss being there and being able to analyze games. And so that in itself I find that he was one of the first people really to get anywhere close to Mr. X, who obviously was a legend within the community for being analytical and making some really good calls, and his coaching style and everything. So, you know, now that he's stepped into that role and quite literally stepped away from being on that analyst desk, I think he really needs to step up what he's doing right now and prove that, you know, first of all, he made the right decision for himself, but second of all, do his team and the players right, you know?
Yeah. Just to touch a little more briefly on what you said, reason that I love Merc and Maven, kind of when they're cast together, Merc, is able to give like the super analytical, they should do this then, and I can't think of a specific example, but like such a different view on it, and then Maven's able to hype up the big moments, and then Merc's able to say, okay, that was a big moment because, and that's really going to help them bring it back or solidify a win or whatever. And I think that you mentioned the analyst, and I can't speak, analysis desk that is kind of missing. You know, there's Nameless, Study, Pac-Man, I guess, has taken a lot of flack this week for some comments. I don't know if you saw those.
No, I mean, I've seen general things, and I will agree that I'm personally somewhat disappointed with those people who have literally just stopped playing the game, and they're just not like there is no analysis from them basically whatsoever. I think Nameless kind of touches on some of it every now and again, but for the most part, it's just like, yeah, this guy made a big play. Let's have a look, and like there's no actual kind of, like you say, in-depth analysis about it, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of the personalities not being right. Like Nameless and Study, like they're like big personalities. They want to like make jokes, goof around, but that's not really what you want on an analysis desk. That's not conducting analysis.
Yeah.
But so in terms of the comments that Pac-Man, I guess he made a comment about denial and that their team sucks and that the organization should drop all the players and send them back to Europe or some. I'm paraphrasing, but something along those lines.
Right.
Wow. So I believe they had a 1-4 record at the time, or 1-5. I'm not entirely sure when he made the comments, but he never said anything nearly as harsh against Evil Geniuses, who have a worse record. It was like making these rude comments about these players who from Europe. They're, we'll get more into it a little bit later, but then you're not saying that about Evil Geniuses, who you assume are your friends and probably have been your friends for a while, but that's not what you should be as an analyst.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. I was just about to say, like, the only difference that I see between the two of them is the fact that he's probably had a more of a relationship with those people, especially the likes of like Gunja, who's been around for a long time, versus those European players. Like you said, it's those personalized opinions that just shouldn't be, like you say, it shouldn't be used on the desks. It should be, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to move on to Group B? Division B, excuse me?
Yeah.
All right.
Division B, to start off with, Division B just finished today, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was the last group of matches. So did you manage to catch any of those?
I was able to watch the United vs Splice, which was possibly my highlight of the entire league so far. It was such a back and forth series. It did only go to 4 maps, but like all of those 4 maps, like a kill here or there, and it could have been a 3-0 the other way. Like it was so close, and I feel like those teams are so evenly matched, fighting for top 2, top 3, and I really would expect that to be either a grand finals this year, or like a winner bracket final. Some like really high stakes match is going to be between United and Splice, and don't ask me who's going to win, because honestly, at this point, I have no idea. They're just all 10 of the players all have the ability to clutch up, and personally, I just love the United roster. I think they've done so well in crafting it, in the sense where they have JCap and Clayster, who are the established veteran pros. They're there to help guide the, I will say, slightly less veteran or more new. Not a very good way of wording it, but not as experienced. That's the word I'm looking for. Not as experienced. In Arstes and Pristini, who are somewhat, I would say, in the middle in terms of experience, and then Abizi, who's really just up and coming, but he has played phenomenal. Abizi, like, again, I was looking at some stats, and he has a 1.47 KD in S&D, 2 kills every 3 rounds. Like, how are you not going to do well? And then even Arstes as well has a 1.24. So those two together, just running around each of the maps, killing everyone.
Yeah, so and just to put that into perspective as well for anybody watching or listening, that Abizi at 1.39 literally puts him at 4th overall, and he's played 10 maps of S&D.
Right. I guess he's just like this god at S&D. I mean, it shows from the record. They were 10-4. Now, sorry, they were 10-4 in hardpoint and S&D. Excuse me.
Right.
The overall record right now is 5-2. They unfortunately lost the tiebreaker for their group, which meant they got a slightly worse group, Dallas. But we'll talk about that in a second. they just 10-4 in Hardpoint and S&D. Like, again, those are 4 of the 5 maps that are going to be played in a series. You're going to do pretty well. They're 1-3 in Control. I will say that is their weak point. They really, and Clay even acknowledged it in the end game interview after their match. That they're going to go home. They're going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to really work on that control. And if they can get it, if they could go 2-2, then that's really going to make a big difference. But again, we were talking about Revan in terms of the coach for Evil Geniuses. They have Brian Saint. Again, a very analytical mind, and I think he has already done really well for them in terms of the fact that 10-4 in Hardpoint and S&D. I would like to see a little more from him in terms of helping them with the control. And if you look at
and well, not only Saint as well. Sorry to cut you off there.
Okay.
They also have, and I don't know how much involvement he has with the day-to-day things, but they also have Burns, right, who's the general manager, which is why I say I don't know how much he has to do with their day-to-day, but I'm pretty sure he's been around for even longer than Saint has, right? He's been around for a long time, and again, somebody who's well established within the community and must have a lot of good input that he could give to the team. So yeah, they definitely have that foundation there at their disposal.
Right. I feel like they came in to the beginning of the league a little cold, maybe, or a little overconfident, which is why the record isn't quite as good as. But I definitely feel like in the second week and towards the second half of the first week, I guess. So the first half of the first week, they didn't quite play up to their potential. The second half of the first week and the second week, they really stepped up and were able to turn their record around.
Yeah, and so obviously just to run through it, their overall record is 5-2 series. With 17 map wins, 12 map losses. So in that first week, the first game was obviously Heretics, which we're definitely going to be talking about them. But literally the first game of this Division B, and United went and lost 3-2 to them. They then played E6 and they won that one 3-0, so that was a nice sweep. They beat Accelerate, who's obviously bottom of the league, and they beat 100 Thieves that also went to a game 5. So I mean, they didn't do too bad in that first week. It was mainly just that Heretics, which, I mean, after seeing how they've turned out towards the end of things, isn't a bad result overall. However, with the exception of E6, they did go to 2 game 5s after that versus, like I just said, Accelerate, who are now bottom of the league, the division, having only won 1 series, and also going to map 5 against 100 Thieves, who again might be playing a lot better at this point during this division, but at the start there they were again not off to a very hot start, so it didn't really say much at that point. But then, like you said, in week 2 they moved on to Denial, beat them 3-1. Then they lost obviously to Envy, which was that yesterday? Wednesday, yep. And then beat Splice tonight. So yeah, I think overall they definitely had a better second week. They had a lot more convincing wins with the ones that they did. It was just that fall to Envy, which again, Envy haven't done too hot. So it's that level of consistency that they definitely need to figure out. And again, I think, like you said, the controls is a big problem for them. Those controls are what has allowed them to get to those game 5s a couple of times now.
And the loss to Envy definitely cost them first place. If they beat Envy, they'd have been first in the division. Whereas now there's 3 teams that are 5-2, and you mentioned Heretics, and I would love to talk about them right now because the Pro League qualifier, they just shocked everyone. And even going into that, I was expecting little to nothing from them, to be completely honest. I really kind of struck them aside, I guess you could say, and it was like, oh yeah, they're not going to do anything, and I don't really think they're going to really do like qualify, and then I don't think they'll do well in the league, and then look at where they are now. I mean, there's
Yeah.
two of the
So
players'
I
methods.
have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Can you name one player from Heretics right now?
I can because I have the roster in front of me, but
Oh, okay. Well, that's cheating.
I would have been able to give you methods, but
Yeah.
I think I've heard of Lucky, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Journey.
So I knew Journey and Methods. Those are the two that I knew of.
Okay.
Journey's been around for a while, so has Methods. And so, you know, it really is. It's just crazy how they've gone from 0 to hero throughout this whole division and throughout this whole season so far.
And I think part of it comes from the fact that are EU team, so they don't scrim NA teams, so NA teams kind of historically underestimate EU teams. But then on the flip side of that, they don't scrim NA teams, so they don't get as good practice in EU. So it's kind of half of one. I can't think of the saying, but 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There you go. Like,
there you go.
it's a pro and a con, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because that was the big thing, right? Coming into it, I think a lot of people were expecting that exact same thing, that, you know, they were going to struggle because of the fact that they don't get that practice time. And then I don't know about you, if you've heard anything about it, but I've been hearing a lot of stories. I think Maven or maybe Merc actually mentioned it one night on stream, how they've literally been playing series and then going backstage and scrimming people. So he was saying how, you know, a lot of these teams, they'll come in, they'll play their series, they might scrim a little bit beforehand, but as soon as they play their series, they're done for the night. Meanwhile, we've got Heretics who are just taking the scene by storm, and they're coming in, they're playing the game, and then they're staying and they're playing more. And I think that is a huge contribution to the success throughout this whole past 2 weeks. And
though, I think it might hurt them because, you know, coming back from Fort Worth, going into the interdivision weeks, teams are going to know what to expect from them. You know, they came into these 2 weeks, teams had no idea. But if they're scrimming every day, they're going to know their setups. They're going to know what to expect. It will really show, though, how flexible they can be. And that's what the really top teams are. They are very flexible. So I would look. They're definitely my team that I'm going to keep an eye on because I feel like Fort Worth and into the first couple of weeks of the interdivisional play is really going to be a pivot for them. Could go either way, and it's very much like on the tip of a needle kind of pivot. Like if they're kind of stuck in their ways, they're gonna plummet. But if they're able to, you know, change their setups and roll with the punches a little bit, then definitely see them staying right up there because they have the skill and they've shown that. Just need to take the next step now.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, right? It like you just said, it can definitely go either way. I think a big thing is obviously, yes, they are scrimming, and so yes, it could potentially hurt them. The big question is, are they also learning what other teams are doing? Because, you know, beforehand, yeah, sure, they probably had that upper hand because they were probably also watching a lot of VODs and things like that from other teams, as well as practicing against what they did have in Europe. But now it's a case of, you know, it's a lot different watching a VOD versus actually playing against them, right? So, you know, are they scrimming people just to, in general, try and get better and try and keep on working on that gun skill and team chemistry? Or are they scrimming people to, like I just said, try and actually learn what the other team is doing and trying to expand their own like strategic pool of what they do and how they can adjust to those different teams in different scenarios, right?
Right. I don't know if you've just seen, but the CWL Intel is a Twitter account that I follow, have just tweeted out that Pristini has taken E United out of his bio, which could be bait, it could be nothing, but it could be very interesting.
Yes, it could. So just checking it here, he definitely has taken it out of his bio. So
I would say I don't know for sure whether he ever had it in it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
But that, in my opinion, might be a mistake. Like, I wouldn't mess with the saying they are one of my favorite teams to watch right now because they play so well. They just need to take that extra step in control. But I would not mess with that formula, and I think that may come back and bite them and hurt them. To be honest, if that is
100%,
if that is true. Anyway, so getting back to Group B.
Yeah,
I want to touch on Denial. I feel like they have done what I expected Heretics to do.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Again, I'm gonna read you some stats really quick. 3-12, excuse me, in types. So
in what, sorry?
In all game types, they're 3-12.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
They've won 1 hardpoint, I believe 1 control, and 1 S&D. So
they won a series.
Yeah. Across the 7 series they played, they've won. Their highest player with the highest KD has a 1.06, so barely, just over 1, and lowest player has a 0.62. Like it's real hard to win games when you have a player that's barely getting a kill every 2 rounds. Dying twice as much as they're killing. Excuse me. And as I touched on before, it is hard for European teams to get scrims, which I think has hurt Denial more than it has hurt Heretics. I mean, straight up, just looking at the results, it shows that.
Yeah, I think that's basically the complete opposite, right? I think it shows that when it came to Heretics, I mean, so first of all, when it came to the qualifiers that obviously Heretics made it through, we saw a lot of the energy and the passion and things like that then, which they had, and these are, like I was kind of getting at before, these are all players that nobody really knows too much about, right? Like I said, I recognized a couple of the names, but that was about it. Like even then I don't really know much about those players. Meanwhile, these guys here in Denial, obviously we have a couple of names that have been around for quite a while now, so they are more established in the community. They have been playing Call of Duty for a little while, and I find it difficult to think otherwise than the fact that they've probably didn't put as much work in. Like I don't think that they did put time into watching VODs of other teams and trying to get better by learning other team strats and things like that. Or at least nowhere near as much as Heretics did, because when you see a team with that kind of passion, it shows, obviously, but 2, that these guys are going, like, they're not going backstage after a match to scrim just because they feel like they have to. They're doing it because they want to, right? They're having fun. Meanwhile, from what I've seen from Denial, like I've heard a couple of listen-ins during the games and things like that, and other than the fact that I don't understand a word they're saying because they speak in French, the passion is not there, right? And I mean, I was about to say that it might be because of the fact that, like, obviously I speak Spanish, so I at least understand when there's a Heretics listening, but like I don't, like, it doesn't. You can just tell, even without being able to speak the language, you can tell where there's passion and where there isn't, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the chat?
Yes, I did. I was about to make a comment.
Okay.
Anna, that is because I am an old man. As you acknowledged the other day, it was my birthday. I'm old as fuck. So, anyway, back to Call of Duty. Yeah, Denial. I expected Heretics to be in the same spot as Denial. Going on the flip side, the top of the division, we have 100 Thieves, and I don't know if you want to spin around and show your little jersey right there. I think it might, your biases might come out a little bit, but
maybe
the past results that 100 Thieves have, I don't remember exactly what place they got at Vegas, but I remember it being an extremely disappointing finish. And they, with the help of replays previously of FaZe, now goes by Crowder, I guess, and they brought in, who did they bring in from FaZe? Who was the Priester? Yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. Like, there's no denying it, and I think with bringing Priester in, I think it's helped them put aside a little bit of the egos that there was previously. And remember, maybe it was at Vegas or at the very beginning of the league before they brought Priester in, they did a listen-in, and Slasher was just...
It's not good.
Right, it was just egos, and like each of the players individually would probably be a top 12, top 15 player.
Yeah.
So why are they not a top 5 team?
Yeah. So just to answer what you were saying before, so they were in Pool A and finished third with a record of 2-2 overall of the series, and that was when they, again, going back to when it was Kenny, Octane, Slasher, Enable, and Pharaoh.
Right.
So they won 50% of their series, but their overall map count was 7 wins and 8 losses. So that finishing in third place there instantly put them into the losers bracket, I believe. Yeah, so they had a bye, but they were in the losers bracket straight away. From there, they beat G2, which was Blast, Decimate, Lacefield,
Chino, I believe.
Yeah, I don't remember. I can bring it up here. Chino and Methods.
Yep.
And then they then played against LG, which did not end very well. They lost 3-1 right there. So that was round 4 of the losers bracket. So obviously ended up making it into the Pro League still, but yeah, definitely a very, very underwhelming finish, especially because I feel like there was a lot of hype around this roster, right? When obviously Nate Sharp, being a veteran of the community and one of the most established names throughout Call of Duty, came into the scene, finally came back to Call of Duty to build up this roster with a lot of mainly young talent, for the most part. Obviously Enable and Slasher being the ones who have been around for a while, but those two have also been on pretty recent successful teams as well. Then we've obviously got Octane, who came from Optic, not the hottest Optic, but still Optic.
Right.
Kenny, who was, I think, pretty much hands down the best player of last year.
Oh, absolutely.
On World War II. And then Fellow, who is obviously a huge S&D star as well, and again, he's kind of he's somewhat of an up-and-comer, but also kind of been around for a while and puts in a lot of time and effort throughout his past couple of years, and you know, again, a lot of people just expected a lot from the whole roster, basically. So yeah, definitely underwhelming finish for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think under the guidance of, like I said, Crowder and MaDaC, again, when you mentioned Burns, you know, MaDac's more of a GM kind of. We don't know how much kind of input he has on the day-to-day, but you would assume the analytical mind that he has, he would have some input. But those two together have really helped turn that team around. They're 5-2 with 71% win percentage. You can't really go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I mean, we mentioned it a little bit earlier when talking about United, right? These guys did not have the hottest of start. They had a pretty rough entry into this pro league, considering they were actually supposed to be playing on that first day when EU lost to Heretics.
Oh yeah.
And I actually just watched the vlog a couple of days ago, and basically they were supposed to fly at like 7 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. and were at the airport for more than 12 hours, I'm pretty sure it was, until they finally found out that they weren't even going to be flying until the next day. Flew the next day and literally played on that day for their first match, which they lost against Splice 3-0.
Right.
And then last week they also played against Denial, so they beat Denial 3-0, so that was at least a good turnaround. Yes. But then again, they played United and lost 3-2, like we mentioned earlier. So, like I said, not the hottest week.
I feel like Denial and Accelerate for Group B and Reciprocity and Evil Genesis for Group A are kind of like the confidence. Like, you've had a rough week, you've had a rough day or previous match or whatever. You assume you're going to beat them. Like, so I think that you mentioned was it the second game they played against Denial or the third game?
Yes, the second game.
Yeah, so I think that might have had a really big impact on their turning it around, because I think they ended up 1-2, did you say, originally? And then
that first week they were 1-2. They also had pretty much the hardest, what we thought, especially at that time, was going to be the hardest matches throughout the whole 2 weeks that they were going to be playing.
Right.
Obviously, United and Splice, and obviously they did fall to both of those teams. So
right, but so then from turning it from 1-2 to 5-2, that's an undeniably great turnaround.
Yeah, I think obviously the big thing here, and we obviously talked about United and where they lost, which one of the big ones they lost was against Envy, as well as Heretics. Obviously, in that second week, so this week that's just finished, those are the two teams that 100 Thieves did end up beating, and so that's basically what's ended up getting them to the spot where they're at right now, right? Which is technically in first position because of the map count.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the bringing on those two players was a great move, and I don't know whether that came from Nature or MaDaC. That decision, they need a pay raise. They need more money because they turned that around. And
if it's Nade, I don't think he needs more.
I mean, you can never have enough money. That's what I'm learning as a poor person. Learning. Anyway, so I wanted to touch on Splice really quickly. Splice is up there with United for me. I feel like they're just 4 players that are really good and accuracy that's not quite up the same level as the rest of them, but is still like he can hold his own. But with the coaching of Marky B, like I don't know if you saw their control on. I can never remember the names of this map, but it has the one with the showers, and then there's whichever the map is. You know what I'm talking about. And
yeah, I know that map, but
so
it's gonna annoy me now. So I'll find out while you talk.
The A control point is in next to the showers where the tree is. And they just positioned themselves. They gave up A immediately, but they positioned themselves in 5 spots around, just on head glitches, just to keep them trapped in A. And I saw it in 2 separate matches. They did it on the same map, and it was just the teamwork. Gridlock, thank you. The teamwork, the coaching, the preparation, it all showed. And I feel like this is another team where the 4-3 record show skill, and I expect them to easily be top 3 overall. And I just think that little nuances like that, like the really small things, it really shows their preparation. And it was impressive, and that's the kind of Call of Duty I like to watch. I like to watch the team that was the most prepared is the team that wins. I don't like
for sure
watching a pub. That's boring.
I think a big thing about Splice to note is kind of the way their 2 weeks went, right? So obviously they finished the second week in 4th place. So obviously they're still in the top half of the division, but they've basically done the opposite of what 100 Thieves did. So they started out the first week, like we mentioned before, 3-0 against 100 Thieves was their first game. They then 3-2 against Envy, and then 3-1 against E6. Came into the second week, and first game we came in hot, which was on Monday, 3-1 against Accelerate, which again, not a huge accomplishment at this point. But after that, it was downhill. The last 3 games they played, they lost to Heretics 3-1. They lost to Denial 3-2, which we've already touched on Denial. And then they lost 3-1 to E United as well. So obviously, I think that game versus E United was obviously the big one for them. And obviously, it's basically the difference between E United and Splice. It was whichever team won that game was obviously going to be tied in first. And in fact, I don't believe so. Yeah, no matter what, they would have had a worse record still than 100 Thieves have finished with. But still, it would have put them in that tied first position map pool wise, or series wise.
And I feel like we've gone over Group B pretty well. Do you have any more comments to add to the discussion?
So I mean, just to I guess go in a little bit more about exactly what I was just talking about right there with Splice.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think one of the big problems with that, so we were kind of talking about it, I think it was last night or the night before. The next thing coming up now is Fort Worth, right? So how do you think that a team like Splice feels going into Fort Worth, having lost against, again, the likes of Heretics, Envy, and E United all in the space of the past 3 days?
I mean, it doesn't feel good. Absolutely, never feels good to lose, especially. Say that to E United this afternoon, I did see a tweet from Marky V saying that they know what's wrong, and I feel like that's a big part of the battle, knowing what's wrong. And I think that the second big part of the battle is as a player and as a coach, helping your players acknowledge that's what is wrong. And it's not a single person that is in the wrong, but as a group, as a whole, they need to work together to improve it. And I think that going into it, if they're able to get some really good practice sessions in, whether that be kind of dry runs, if you will, like on a map, just the team with an unlimited time limit, and you just prepare for each situation and how you're going to do a setup, or whether that be like actual scrims against players. I think that is really going to decide how they're going to feel coming in, because if they're not able to get those successful dry runs and they're not able to get those successful scrims, then after going 0-3, that's going to really affect your mentality, because you could be sitting in the booth and you could be thinking, like, the person next to me is not going to get this kill, so that's going to, it kind of snowballs and it builds and it builds and it builds. So I hope for their sake they're able to get some good practice and they're able to work out their issues. How do you kind of feel? Like, how do you think they would be thinking going into this?
So looking at it here, obviously, and again, we did kind of mention this the other night between us. They've basically got 2 weeks really, because Fort Worth starts on March 15th, so that'll be 2 weeks on Friday. So they got 2 weeks to sort these things out. Now, and I know this is something we were going to talk about a little bit anyway. Was the pools that just got announced for Fort Worth.
Yep.
So looking at their pool, they're going to be in Pool C. So in fact, let me just Let me just do this here. Put up on the screen.
So, before you go too in depth, I would say I believe the top 1 and 2 seeds from each pool from each division got the top seed in each pool. Then, so 3 and 4 will have got the second seed. 4 and 5, like going on. So, like you said, Splice in a pool there with. Were you able to get it up on screen?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to.
Oh, I was just going to say, Splice there in a pool with Midnight, and I would expect them to I expect them to be 1 or 2. I really, would expect them to be LG, even though kind of, and definitely expect them to be Accelerate, and I expect the Midnight game to be close, but to go Splice's way, to be honest with you. How do you feel that pool's going to go?
Yeah, so here I'm just gonna bring it up now. Yes, so yeah, Pool C, obviously, like you said, Midnight, Luminosity, Accelerate. So I think it is definitely a tough pool that they've got. Brief looking through here, I don't think it's the most dangerous one, but it's certainly a dangerous one. Obviously, Midnight and Luminosity is the big ones, and I mean, that's taking into consideration that we're expecting Luminosity to figure their stuff out as well. But Midnight for sure, I'm expecting them to come in hot again. I'm hoping that they have been obviously practicing a lot and putting in the hours that they need to. It's one of those groups where I think they're either going to go into it and they're just going to smoke the rest of the group, or they're going to go in and the other teams have put in the work that they were supposed to, and they are going to have a bit more of an issue there. Because that's the thing as well, right? So everything that we've been talking about, so this is the end of Division B. As far as for right now, this is week 4. There is a total of 12 weeks in this CWL Pro League, so we still have a long way to go. So even
a lot more Call of Duty to be played.
Yeah, even these teams like Accelerate and Evil Geniuses, those guys could still technically finish on top of these leagues at the end of the day, right? So we still have a lot to see. We still have a lot to play, and I think that again, it just really comes down to the amount of time and effort that these teams are going to be putting in. So if we do see the likes of, like say, Luminosity, Midnight, and Accelerate putting in that time, then I think Splice actually have a pretty difficult group. And the problem I see for them with that is I don't think that they are going to expect it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too deep into predictions. I would like to do that in the next, but I mean, just look at Group D for a second. So you have E United, which I've mentioned is absolutely one of my favorite teams to watch. You have Optic, who are going to be getting Dashi back. They're going to be close to their true form of, they won Vegas, obviously. Then you have Envy, the likes of Aches and Apathy, who have always played Optic close and often beat them. Then you have Reciprocity, the likes of Tommy and Shawnee and Zed, who have always played Optic close as well. So I don't see a clear-cut winner in Group D.
That's definitely the group of death.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. Yeah, it's...
I need to go and let my cat in. I'm sorry, she's going crazy.
No problem. So, I mean, again, we see a a lot of big names in this group, and it's going to be something that definitely is, like Sam just said, is going to be a crazy one for sure. Yeah.
What?
I was just saying, like, it's definitely going to be the biggest group. It's going to be the one that everybody's going to have their eyes on. And it's going to be, it's going to be crazy. Like, the outcome is going to be crazy no matter what. And there's going to be a team that's gonna be fairly upset.
Right. I looking at the other pools, the way that they are, the seeds, the way that they're laid out, could very easily be the way that they finish.
Yeah.
You know, Pool B, I could easily see D is red, then E6, then EG. A and B definitely. But I would not want to be any of the players in Pool D because
Nope.
not
Because that's the thing as well. It's not even going to be the players on their team that's upset. These are some of the biggest like organizations with some of the biggest followings throughout the whole of Call of Duty, just in that group right there. So
yeah. I mean,
I would love to be in that environment when these teams are playing.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be some matches to watch. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be round robin format or if it's going to be GSL format where, you know, the one plays 4, 2 plays 3, and then the winners play the winners and the losers play the losers. Then the loser of that goes home. But I think it's a little more complex in Call of Duty. But I'm very interested as to how, you know, I think the first day, the first series of probably, you know, go back to talking about Splice, we talk about Pool D. The first series is going to really set the tone for everything. And
yeah.
I mean, you know, you look at Optic historically, back to the roster with Formal and Karma. I believe they lost every first match they played. Believe
in like every tournament, yes,
right?
It's certainly something close.
And you know, going back to Splice, if they play Accelerate, that could get that they could absolutely destroy Accelerate 3-0. You know, they could 100-point club them. They could, you know, 3-0 them in Control, and
Yep.
you know, that's really going to get their confidence up to then go against Midnight and LG, which is going to be much harder. But you know, the confidence and the skill is the skill is so close that things like confidence and, you know, just knowing that you're going to win a gunfight, like that mentality is really going to make a difference. So I'm very interested to see, like, you know, who plays who first, and I think that's going to play a big factor in it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and well, like you said, the biggest thing is going to be those first games for everybody, right? I think that is going to be a huge factor for every single. It's really going to set the tone, and said I think out of all the teams, Optic is obviously the one that's historically done the worst when it comes to first games.
Right.
And the problem with a group like this is, can they afford that?
Oh, absolutely not. I was about to say that. I think having a bad first day is gonna mess up their entire tournament. That they need to come out strong. They need the likes of TJ Halley and Dashi to do what they were brought onto this roster to do. They were brought onto the roster to kill and to do well in S&D, and they've done it so far. They did it at Vegas, and TJ Halley did it to the extent he could in the league so far. But I think it's big emphasis on what those two can do, because you know what you're going to get from Scum, you know what you're going to get from Crim, you know what you're going to get from Karma. The three of, I would say, the top 5, maybe top 10 players in Call of Duty history right there. You just need the you don't want to say amateurs, but the lesser names on this roster to really step up and do what they were brought there to do.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if the performances we've seen from Dashi is anything like what we're going to see at Fort Worth, then I think we're in for a treat.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. As you were mentioning before,
he's still in everybody's top 3.
Right. you haven't played a single map, but you're still the top 3 player, so must be good.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's just it, right? Like, they definitely were 2 very big pickups for them. I know, obviously you can't see right now. Obviously, I've got my 100 Thieves jersey right here, but if I was to actually remove this one, you would see an Optic jersey. Because, you know, well, you know this, but I've obviously been a huge Optic fan as well for a long time. And I mean, last year wasn't a big fan of Call of Duty, to be honest, in general. Didn't watch too much of it last year, with it being World War II. I know a lot of people didn't like that game.
Right.
But when I heard the whole like Dashi and TJ Halley joining, I was a little confused, to be honest, to start with. But it sure didn't take long for me to realize, damn,
Right.
like they were definitely the right people to pick up, and you know, they've definitely got what it takes to be in the exact same position that Krem, Scump, and Karma are in right now.
I remember Advanced Warfare. It was a map. It was just a square, and
You're gonna say TJ Halley?
he was on Elevate, and did they beat Optic in the final?
Yeah, they did. So yeah, that's basically the only time that I really saw TJ Halley do any. And I think that was a 2K though or something, wasn't it?
Wasn't it a LAN?
Was it a LAN? I'm not too sure, but I do remember him causing a lot of trouble within AW.
That's the point where he went for me from being this S&D star to like, oh my god, he's like an all-round player. He's really good.
Yeah. Which is basically where Dashi's at right now, because Dashi is known to be an S&D god who has made his way through it, you know,
right.
and is now been put in this position where he's at, which seems to be a pretty common theme for most pros these days.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of the common come up, if you will. Like the established pro kind of takes you under your wing after playing a couple of D, and you move up from complexity to arguably the biggest organization in esports. Yeah. So looking at Group A and B, I have big expectations from, you know, as we talked for a long time about Heretics. We touched a little bit about Gen.G. I think this, again, whichever team plays Denial first, if they completely dumpster on them, then that's going to do so well for their confidence. And I could actually imagine a Heretics versus Denial game, because I would assume that they know each other quite well. I would assume that they probably scrim each other quite a lot, because two top European teams, although one's Spanish and one's French. I would assume they probably scrim each other quite a lot or meet in tournaments. So
yeah, you would think so.
That could very easily go Denial's way, given if they know each other well enough and they do their homework and they play to their true standards, then that could easily go Denial's way, which then could really upset a lot of people's, you know, going into the bracket play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, yeah, there's just so many good matchups throughout this whole, like, throughout all of these polls.
Yeah.
Like we said before, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be crazy. And this is, honestly, I think this is one of the reasons why we have already seen a pretty big influx in viewers again this year so far, is because of how well they've actually set things up, how good obviously the game is compared to World War II especially,
right.
But also just the caliber of every single team. You know, it's not like previous years where we've had like just Optic dominating, or just, and well, this is going back years, but for example, just Complexity dominating, or, you know, it's not one of those Call of Duties. It's one where, you know, there, and in fact, to go a little bit more in depth, sorry, I just want to say, Dimmer, thanks for following the stream, brother. I appreciate it. Going back a little bit more, it's also not like even the most recent years where it's not necessarily just been one team that's dominating, but that's only been because the skill gap has just not been very big whatsoever, that all the teams have kind of been mediocre and it's more luck than anything. This year there is a big skill gap between pros and amateurs, and it's just, we're at a point now where we have a broad range of very good players across multiple teams, which is a surprise as well, because a lot of people did not expect that to happen going into 5v5. That was one of the biggest arguments, that a lot of people thought it was going to be 2 or 3 super teams and then the rest were going to be nothing.
I think I absolutely agree with you. I think a lot of people's perspective were big organizations opted to end by the best players left with. But I think going back to your point about amateurs, I think that's another point where Fort Worth is going to be so interesting because the two free agency, periods in between. I believe we have one starts tomorrow and goes until the 6th, and then there's one after Fort Worth. I looked at the dates yesterday. I can't remember exactly, but I think what happens in the open bracket might have a big impact on what happens going into divisional play and then into the future of the league, because there's going to be some of these players that they're on the cusp of getting into pro, and a team like EG or Reciprocity, they might take a risk and they might say, what have we got to lose? We're already, bottom two of our league. So what could go wrong if we add this player or that player? So I think that's another really interesting thing that might come out of Fort Worth, because there is going to be changes, and I heard a rumor. I don't remember if it was on Twitter or Reddit or somewhere today that Reciprocity was already looking to change Dens out for their sub, who is Dylan Card. I can't remember his exact.
Yeah.
It's Dylan something. But
I just was looking at it before.
But he played
Dylan,
yeah, he played phenomenally at the Pro League qualifier, and maybe that's the next step they need to take. It would really suck for he is the only Australian player in the league, but I mean, maybe that's what they need to do. And EG, they might. You said they had God RX as their sub, right?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe they bring him in, or they make a change during this period, and they're able to take that next step. So these next couple of weeks, even though there's going to be no matches, there's a lot to watch for, I think.
Yeah. No, for sure, there definitely is, and yeah, like you said, that's going to be the main thing, is all of these changes that we're going to be seeing, and I think that again, it's just this whole new dynamic that they've really added to many different levels of this pro league this year. This is one of the big ones that I think they've done really well finally, and for once, is these kind of FA periods where people can swap in and out people and stuff like that. So it's a good balance of teams not just switching rosters after every event, which has definitely been a big problem for Call of Duty for a long time, but it's also not locking people in for huge long periods of times and things like that, which have also been a huge problem for Call of Duty for a long time as well. So
I don't know if you remember back, Ghosts and Black Ops 2 to some extent, it would be the week before events, and 5 of the top 20 teams would make a change, and you'd be like, all right, cool, make a change, and then they'd make another change right after, and then the next event they'd make another change, and there was a reason that the complexities, the optics, I can't remember any more of the orgs from back then, but they were
TK.
Exactly. Like, there was a reason that they were at the top, and it's because they had that consistency, and that's what we're seeing now. And it's, to some extent, it's forcing teams to look at other options. Like, the first option isn't always now, let's make a team change. I don't want to work with you, I'm making a team change. Now it's more, all right, how can we deal with our problems? And going back to the earlier discussion of coaches, that's where they come in. How can they help them deal with the problems? But this is something that I really like. This is a good step that the CWL and MLG and whoever else has made, because you look at the LCS, you look at top CS:GO teams that they don't make changes lightheartedly. And
no, they don't.
I feel like that's definitely a big downfall of what COD has been previously, which has made it more of a, I don't want to say laughing stock, but not taken as seriously as these other teams. And something actually I wanted to touch on, I was, I when I do watch the CWL, and I unfortunately don't get to watch it every night because personal things outside of my control, but I look at the viewership and
Mm-hmm.
I'm always really surprised. And for example, I compare it to the Overwatch League because they're both run by Activision Blizzard, and they should theoretically get similar viewership. Overwatch League tonight had 111,000 something viewers when I was flicking through Twitch. CWL had 18,000. And these are steps that need to be made to bridge that gap, that 100,000 viewer gap that COD has right now. And yes, Champs Finals, big finals, they get a lot of viewers.
Mm-hmm.
But this was one of the first matches for the OWL this season. I don't follow anyone, but this wasn't a big match for them, and they got 100. Let's call it 115,000, whereas Call of Duty is stuck at 20,000.
Yeah,
I think
it has been for a long time.
Exactly, there is definitely some plateauing, and these changes that the CWL have made, consistency, it's the right direction, and I feel like this is where we should be now. We definitely trending upwards, and this is the right direction. We just need more of it, and I don't really know what the next step should be, but they need to meet more steps, and keep pushing it and keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think adding this, like I said before, this whole structure that they're starting to add more and more to is definitely a big step in the right direction. Just real quick as well, I want to say hi to Insane in the chat. He's a regular viewer.
Hi, Insane.
Watching you watch Maris fans. Yeah, no, like it's been a big thing, right? For many years at this point, they've been bringing out a new system. They'll try it for sometimes a matter of months, and then it just completely gets changed, right? And then now I think we're finally at a point where instead of just changing things every 2 or 3 months, we're actually finding that they're making changes to the system rather than, like I said, just completely changing it altogether, right?
Right.
And this is it's progressive, and it's moving in that right direction finally. And yeah, I think it's only going to get better from here. And one of the big things that I think has always been around in Call of Duty, and you know what, it might not be the best at this point, especially competing against the LCS, who has a huge following. They obviously have a lot more money involved in general and things like that. And same with CSGO. But I think that when it comes to like production value and hype, I think Call of Duty have always done a very good job at that, especially considering that we do have a game and a new title every single year, and so it can be a little hard and difficult to keep up with. Which, I mean, this is a whole different conversation.
Don't get me started on that, dude.
Well, I feel like we have mini conversations about that every now and again.
Yeah,
all the time.
I feel like these, in my opinion, leaving the new game cycle every year conversation aside a little. If you look at sponsorships between teams in the LCS and teams in Call of Duty, stereotypically, and LCS teams have been sponsored by Alienware. I'm thinking about Team Liquid currently, like Alienware, which is owned by Dell, a huge international computer company. They are sponsored by, I can't think of anyone else right now, but there was the LCS at one point was sponsored by Kia, which is the car manufacturer.
Yep.
Huge.
Yeah, well, last season, I don't know if it's still this season, but they had Allstate, which is obviously a huge insurance company, I believe, in the States, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like just a lot of much larger kind of like household brands that people just know from everywhere, basically.
You compare that to Call of Duty, and I distinctly remember looking. There was like 5 of the top 10 teams were sponsored by Elgato, Gamma or Gamma Labs, whatever it's called now, or G Fuel, and Astro and Scuff.
Yep.
They are endemic sponsors to gaming, live in this bubble. But you look at Kia, you look at Allstate, you look at Dell/Alienware, like they're going to bring all these other people from outside in, and that's what Call of Duty's been lacking. Whereas now, you look at teams like Optic, sponsored by Mountain Dew, just signed a sponsorship with
Pepsi in general.
Yeah, exactly. They also just signed a sponsorship with Champion,
Champion,
the clothing brand.
I just saw that earlier.
You look at 100 Thieves, sponsored by Red Bull, sponsored by Tostinos, the pizza rolls. They have Rocket Mortgage. Like these are all people that are going to bring in the viewers, and I think that it goes hand in hand. You need the stability of the league. You need the groundwork to bring in these sponsors, and then you get more viewers, and then you get more sponsors, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and that's what I think has been lacking. And it's really great to see them making the steps now to bring in these sponsors, and then subsequently viewers, etc.
Yeah, I think this is in response to when you were saying about League being sponsored by Kia, but Insane just said that COD needs to reach out to Elon and get Tesla as sponsor.
That is the pipe dream right there. That is absolutely.
I don't know if that would be a good thing though. With all of these Call of Duty, like young Call of Duty players whizzing around in Teslas, I feel like that'd just be a bad thing. We'd have less Call of Duty players. Let's put it that way.
Yes, absolutely agree with you.
But no, I mean overall, yeah, it's heading in the right direction. Yes. I think one of the big things they need to work on right now as a whole, as in CWL wise, they need to work on keeping their talent and putting a little bit more priority into that, because in the past year, well, let's go 2 years, we've lost the likes of Mr. X, Courage, TP, obviously Revan just decided to coach instead of be on the desk,
right?
That straight away that's 4 people that are huge and were huge for the Call of Duty scene, and added a lot to everything basically, right? Like the whole production of the CWL definitely would be a lot better with those people still on board, because they were some of the biggest names when it came to the talent of Call of Duty.
Although, TP and Revan went to coaching, which 2 really big orgs in Optic and EG. I'm sure that was very attractive. And then Courage, full-time streaming. You've seen the success that he's had.
Oh, absolutely. But so I mean, I don't know where I saw it, but I know for a fact that Revan literally went because he had, he literally told them like that he wanted some more money and they weren't going to give it to him, and obviously he then got the offer to go and coach, so why not, right? Especially Revan's still a young guy, still got a lot ahead of him, so trying to build that career and establish himself a little bit more, and wherever it leads him, obviously he's going to take it, right? But like we've got people like Mr. X, for example, and that was a huge loss, right? And I mean, when it comes to the Courage, for example, yes, definitely, absolutely was the absolute best decision it could have made. The question is, would he have done it at that specific time? I think eventually he would have done it no matter what. The question is, would he have done it at that specific time though, if he had been getting more of what he wanted from the CWL in general? Right.
I mean, it's hard to say that without having an actual...
Of course.
But they could have offered him more money, but then that comes back to, I assume the CWL gets at least some of its membership, and if the viewership's been lacking, then they're not able to offer their talent as much money. And you look at the league, you look at the stage that they have, it looks amazing. They obviously put a lot of money into that, and the production value of the shows that they run in general, they all look amazing. So there's only so much money to go around, and if one part of it is amazing, then some other part of it has to be lacking. But I do absolutely agree with you. They do need to get a little more consistency when it comes to the on-air talent. I mean, you look at CS:GO or the LCS or these other, like the Overwatch League. There's maybe a handful, maybe 15, 20 maybe casters that could be at any event, and it's always from these. And every so often you see someone branch off to do something else, but it's pretty consistent, and that is definitely where the CWL and Call of Duty should try and. That should be one of the pipe dreams.
Yeah, no, exactly. Again, just going back to exactly what you just said there, like when it comes to League of Legends and CS:GO, if you look at the names throughout those esports, I mean, I'm definitely into League of Legends at this point, but still pretty new to it. I only really started watching it last year. But CS:GO, for example, and both of me and you have been following that a little bit more for a few years now, and the likes of like Thorin and Machine, and there's so many more names there that have been there for years. And Machine, like you said, he went off and he did Call of Duty for that 1 year when ESL kind of took over, but I was just watching the major that's going on right now in CS:GO, and he's right back there, right? He's back in CS:GO again, and these guys, it's not just a coincidence why Machine went back to CS:GO, when he could have gone into Call of Duty. And it all comes down to obviously the passion that they have for the game, which, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Courage, Mr. X, TP, Revan, any of these guys lacked the passion for the game. It's just down to how they're being treated, what the incentives are for them to be doing that job in general, right?
I mean, if you're going to do the job for $100 and you're off $100, pretty much the same thing, like analysis, then why would you not do it? And I mean, even looking at TP's stream, like, I believe he is the most subscribed
Blackout player.
Blackout player, yeah. Like, why would he want to stay on analysis desk when he has all of these opportunities that are open to him?
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, it's one of those things, right? It's a lot of these successes have basically come from I think Call of Duty, Activision, MLG, whoever it may be, not putting in the time or effort that they should have been in the first place, and that's why these people have all branched off to try out these new things. Good thing personally for most of them, definitely. When it comes to being a good thing for the league itself, though, I think it's definitely hurt them in a few ways at this point.
All right. I feel like we've been going for an hour 45?
Yep.
I think this has been a very successful first show. Do you have anything to add about what we've touched on before we wrap it up a little bit?
No, not really. I think, like you said, it's been a pretty good first episode. I think we kind of started off slow and got better and better as it went along, so that was a good thing. I think it's definitely going to be the start of something that obviously we're going to be doing on a regular basis and going to get better and better at each week. And I mean, if anything, all this has done is made me a little bit more excited for the upcoming weeks of Call of Duty that we do have to see, especially with Fort Worth just around the corner, and especially having seen how crazy the league really has been so far, especially after talking about it a little bit more in depth. It really, puts it all into perspective, and those little things that I might have missed because of, like you said before, real life, lifing. It's now made me realize that there was actually even more crazier things than what I did see.
Right. I just want to touch on something that Insane put into the chat. Ed,
Yeah.
does CWL have talented? And I don't know if he watches the CWL. As an outsider, even asking that question, that I think that kind of paints the picture that you were kind of saying. And then he said, if you look at the OWL, they've got a lot of draw, and he's absolutely right. I don't think that Maven and Merc, like specifically Maven and Merc, I mention those because they're my favorite casting duo at the moment, and I every time I see Benson casting a match, I just turn it off because he frustrates me so much. But again, that's another topic for another day. But I feel like Maven and Merc, they try their hardest. They do what they can, but they just don't have that same draw as like a Monte Cristo at the OWL. And I can't speak for the LCS because I don't really watch it that much. But it doesn't have the same draw, and I think that's something that the CWL can definitely work on.
I don't know how much of Vegas you watched. Did you watch like much of it?
I believe I watched almost all of the Sunday, but
okay. So if you watched the Sunday, you would have seen the finals then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I watched a fair bit of it, and honestly, I think the hypest and like best moment throughout that whole thing was when Courage got on that stage.
Right.
And again, we don't have a Courage right now. That's exactly what it is. Like I said, we're missing some talent that can just bring in that extra layer of what we don't have right now. Maven tries to do it, but he's not the same.
I'm going to say it. We need Fwiz.
Yes. Yes.
He needs to make a comeback. I remember probably Puckett and Fwiz catch the finals. They had the dynamic, the combination of the color commentary, the hype. That was amazing. Like we absolutely like at Champs. If Puckett, Fwiz, Mr. X, Maven, and like there could be a 5-man casting booth.
Hold up. Do you know who else you missed?
Who?
Gandhi.
Ooh. I remember
that guy is a legend. Like him and Maven together. So I don't know how much of Hex's podcast you've watched, but I watched the one with Maven, and he was talking about how he kind of got into casting and things, and him and Gandhi basically came right into it together. And man, I remember watching them, and they were just so funny. And like it got to the point where MLG would literally, on purpose, not put them casting together because they would go off topic quite often.
Really?
And it like, I mean, sure, it's looking back at it, especially at the time where they were really trying to grow everything. I can see why MLG were getting frustrated about it, but at the same time, they had that natural dynamic where they were just always laughing and always talking and bouncing off of one another, and then incorporating the game as well. Like it was just fantastic. And if you could, like, the closest to that was probably like Courage and Maven. They had quite a bit of fun together and stuff like that as well. But like, man, I mean, I saw Gandhi as well and Maven cast together at Gfinity 3 finals on Ghosts. Right. And yeah, it was something else.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk for a very long time about many different esports, but
yeah.
Back to kind of wrapping up the show.
Yeah, before we start up again.
Right. As you said, I think this was a very successful first show. I'm very excited and looking forward to seeing where this can take us. I appreciate very much to Insane and Anna and anyone else that popped into the chat that I didn't see. Thank you very much to those people.
Boy, Demo.
Oh yeah, Demo. Thank you so much for the follow. Make sure you check out Maxi's stream when he's on the podcast, when he's not on the podcast. Anytime he clicks that start streaming button, you need to get in here. I just realized I forgot to share my I resub to you. Let me get on that real quick. Anyway, but yeah, so I am very much looking forward to seeing where this can go. And much with the CWL, I see an upward trajectory for this. So very excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Insane, don't worry about it. You know, it's a good thing, if anything. It created a lot more healthy topic there. So don't ever apologize, brother.
Yeah. Don't apologize for being a supporter. Coming down the ground floor, that's where you need to get on the train. In the station.
Quick little side note and quick little story about Insane. This guy was actually the guy who basically got me to, well, not the guy, but one of the biggest contributors to getting me to affiliate. Thank you for the 3-month resub. One of the biggest contributors towards the end of getting me over to that affiliate goal that obviously I was pushing for a few weeks, and he literally stayed up with me. So all I needed was an average of 3 viewers over 30 days. This guy stayed up with me until like, I think it was like 5-6 o'clock in the morning.
What a guy.
Just watch. Yeah,
what a guy.
It was incredible.
Yeah, so shout out to him.
And shout out for you for the 3-month resub.
Thank you. All right, I think this is where we should call it. And again, thank you very much to everybody that tuned in.
Yep.
And we will see you next week. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss, make sure you tweet them at us at the CWL_podcast. We will make sure to write them down. We'll get onto them next week. If you see any interesting things, just tweet them. Oh my god, I cannot speak. Tweet them at us. And let me try and point as well while you're pointing.
Yeah, I was doing it as well. I got the wrong side though first.
Up there. Make sure you follow there. Tweet us, follow the stream, sub to the stream, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so me and Stoney are basically on this Twitter pretty much every day now. I know I'm checking it like just as much as I am checking it my own Twitter. So right. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, any topics that you'd like us to go over, definitely go ahead and tweet us, follow us on the podcast Twitter, and we'll definitely be responding back and taking everything into consideration. Adam Maximize, thank you for following the stream, brother. I appreciate it. And yeah, so as far as the podcast goes, like Stoney said at the beginning of the episode, we are going to be trying to do this on a weekly basis. It's also, obviously, we're going to be streaming it as far as when we record it. It's always going to be streamed. However, well, maybe not always. We're either going to stream it or we're going to basically premiere it on the channel, but we definitely, streaming is the priority, so we're going to be trying to work that out between us with our work schedules and everything else. But if at any point you do realize that you've not seen us here on a Thursday night and maybe we did stream it a different night, it's going to be uploaded on my YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/MaDaC.
I assume there's a link down in the description.
So over here you can see it in the bottom. Oh, perfect timing, it's right there. But yes, underneath the stream also there is a link to my YouTube channel, and you can check us out over there. I'm going to try and get that uploaded literally on the night of doing the podcast as well. So perfect. And Stoney, what's your Twitter?
It is S7ONEY, so Stoney.
I think you cut out, but Stoney with the 7 basically is what he said at the end.
Yeah, that one.
So you can check his personal Twitter out over there. Mine, all of my social media other than YouTube is MaDaC FPS. YouTube, as I just mentioned, is just MaDaC. And otherwise, guys,
wait. Ooh. Oh, bold prediction for next week. Let's hear it.
Next week.
Something that's going to happen in the CWL world between now and when we next broadcast.
Okay, so between now and next week, we are basically the only thing that's happening is the FA thing, right?
Right.
Okay,
most unexpected team change.
Well, after what we saw tonight, I'm gonna throw it out there because I think it could be a possibility. United.
Oh God, I hope not.
I hope that too, but I have a feeling.
All right.
I have a feeling.
Here's my bold prediction. EG is not going to make a change. Team change, at least. Players are going to stay the same. And I think that's a bold prediction because you have the sub, you have a lot of possibilities for them. But my bold prediction is that the 5 players that are currently on EG are going to be the 5 players currently on EG this time next week.
Boom. You hit it head first, ladies and gentlemen.
You did.
The cod burner.
Don't blow me up like that. Come on.
Alright guys, so once again, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the follow button above the stream so you see exactly when we go live again. Otherwise, also subscribe to the YouTube. Once again, it's MaDaC, and also follow us on Twitter, which is at the CWL_podcast to see all things Call of Duty throughout the week. And once again, I hope you all enjoyed the stream, and we will see you guys later.